Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Carrot Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2016 animated family movie titled Kung Fu Panda. Now, Kung Fu Panda runs for 1 hour and 35 minutes long. It is directed by Jennifer Yu Nelson and Allesandro Carloni. It is produced by Melissa Cobb. The script was written by Jonathan Eibel and Glenn Berger. The score was done by the legendary Hans Zimmer, and it was edited by Claire Knight. And it features the voice talents of Jack Black. We have Bryan Cranston. We have Dustin Hoffman, J.K. Simmons, Angelina Jolie. We have Jackie Chan, Lucy Liu, Seth Rogan, David Cross, James S. Hong, Kate Hudson, and Randall Duck Kim. So this is the third installment, and this time it's taken by a new director, this time in Allesandro Carloni and Jennifer Yu Nelson. So after a 5-year sabbatical, the film is definitely voiced by a cesspool of talented performers. Like I mentioned before, we have Jack Black, we have Bryan Cranston, Dustin Hoffman, J.K. Simmons, Angelina Jolie, Kate Hudson, among many others. So continuing his efforts with his legendary adventures of awesomeness, we have Po, voiced by Jack Black, truly has his work cut out for him. Now he has been the new Dragon Warrior. Of course, he realizes that he's got a whole new line of responsibility at task. He's, of course, going to be now a teacher and training other young pandas the arts of martial arts, and also record setting for how many dumplings they can consume. Since, not only is Po the Dragon Warrior, he is also a dumpling-eating champion. I also thought that there was, even though this was a family film, I thought it was also kind of adorable in the sense that they also had a bit of a father-son reunion that was ensuing. For many years, Po was actually raised by Grandmaster Oogway. But now we also are introduced to Po's long-lost biological father, voiced by Bryan Cranston. I thought that there was some great dynamics, especially, biological father against a father who took Po under his wings, an actual real fatherly type instead of an abandoned father. I mean, you could say, you're my father. But the question is, where has he been all his life? Type of situation. Things like that. There's a lot of issues that are going on. Of course, because, this has, of course, the elements of classic kung fu stuff. You're going to probably be exposed to seeing such issues, including epic battles and fights, the whole quest of good versus evil. We have that there. We have martial arts action, even though everything here is all designed for the younger age demographics. But if you are a kid at heart, I'm sure you'll probably find lots of things to enjoy about this movie. Is it anyway a classic animated special movie? Not in the slightest. I mean that's not nothing bad. I mean, it's not the worst, but it's not going to be as memorable as the other previous two installments. Like a lot of sequels and trequels, sometimes when you have too much of a good thing, it tends to wear out its welcome. Fortunately, there's still good things about this movie. It hasn't died out or worn out its welcome or done to death. But I think that if you've seen the events that happened in the first two movies, the third one does not have as many surprising elements as the first two. I mean, it still kind of follows by the number. It's good that it actually does pick up where it left off. So, but still, the surprise elements have kind of sort of faded out because, everything that you may have seen in the first two is pretty much coming back in the third one. So in a way, they kind of do take some recycled stuff, but they just add some new subplots to it. So in some ways, it may not have the originality. It still has the effect to appease the younger audiences if they choose to. The first being that, so like I said, as I mentioned before, Poe has his work cut out for him. The two threatening burdens that come his way. The first is being that something from the outer world is coming to gain revenge on him. That is in the form of an evil, demonic yak who goes by the name of Kai, played by J.K. Simmons. He's, of course, out on a quest for revenge. And it's up to Poe and as well as his friends to try to send this demonic yak demon back to the depths of hell. The other thing is it's a little more closer and more personal. Of course, him training young pandas to be fighters, and as well as also trying to come to terms with his long-lost father who abandoned him when he was small, and to see if there could be any kind of reason and if there's any ways that they could sort out whatever differences they have in hand. So yes, there are a lot of conflicts that Poe has at hand. Will it work out in the end? Well, hey, what do you expect? It's a kids' movie, so there's going to be some predictability. But it's just a matter of how it's handled. And I think the directors did a good job. The animators did a good job. And I think this movie does deserve a lot of credit where it's due for a third installment. Like I said before, sometimes sequels and but by the time you get to a third installment after a successful two films, you sometimes wonder if it's worn out its welcome. It hasn't yet, but I just feel like I don't think there would be a necessity for a fourth installment, because I think after a third installment, it just loses its fizzle. It hasn't done it yet, but it is heading in that direction. No question, this film is definitely in it for profit and from us poor suckers, since DreamWorks has been kind of struggling financially. So what they usually have a tendency of doing is they like to take their more successful film franchises and make sequels out of them. DreamWorks has actually been kind of a bit on a downward spiral. But then again, I think maybe even you could say the same thing for Disney Pixar too. I think they too are also seem to be a bit struggling. But it's kind of hard to determine which one is struggling the most, whether it be Pixar or DreamWorks. But DreamWorks has kind of been under the pinch as of lately. So yeah, so that's kind of the reason why a lot of popular movies are being made into franchises, continuations and sequels and stuff like that. But is Kung Fu Panda 3 a necessity was it a necessity to make a third installment from the Kung Fu Panda franchise? Well, not necessarily. But and that's not necessarily to debunk it, not far from it. I mean, it was still enjoyable. There was a lot of heart put into it. And definitely I also loved the whole positive message that it delivered to the young fans out there. And yeah, okay, there's some cliches that you see in today's animation world, but as long as the kids are having fun, that's really what truly counts the most. I think this movie is based off of, people having fun watching it. The kids enjoy it. And I think that's what this movie was primarily geared towards. And, if you're a kid at heart and, hey, you have a thing for animation, I think you'll probably find this very rewarding. But it's just not necessarily needed because the first two Kung Fu Pandas are a success. This one here is definitely more just to take money out of your wallets and to put in their pockets. That's the real sole purpose of this movie, and it was trying to be the key to a financial comeback for its production company, DreamWorks. So until they had taken their direction to the Panda Village, I was feeling actually kind of a little bit bored with the story. I mean, the pacing was slow, and the situation was definitely quite eccentric at the beginning. It was one of those off to a rocky beginning, but then by the time you get to the later stages of this movie, it does get better. It does start to progress. And sure, this film depends heavily on unoriginal, formulaic plot devices that has been done to death a million times before. The structure still has a mass appeal that does justice for DreamWorks, so no blame to them for not trying. The whole message about being the best you could possibly be is definitely quite satisfying for the kids to watch this. I like kids' movies that deliver positive messages, and this one truly stays to its word. It was warming in the heart when the main protagonists were telling Poe that it was him who made these characters who they are and what they stand for. That really lifted my spirits, even though their quips were pretty hilarious in exchange. Yes, Poe, even though he was faced with the heavy responsibilities, he was not exactly at his most confident best, but it's great to see that he had friends out there that stuck by him and feel that even though he fumbles, he is still a little bit on the awkward side. And sometimes I think even his wins and his victories over evil tend to at times still be by fluke or default. He still has friends that look up to him just as much as they look up to him as much as he looks up to them, whether it be his superiors or whether it be the people who he has taught. And I think, this positive message is very, very universal. And I think if people sometimes take the chance to let their friends know how much they love you, whether they're above your rank, whether they're below your rank, I think, you get that warm feeling inside, that feeling of confidence in you. And I think that level of confidence stays with you throughout. And if you watch this movie, you get a little bit of a piece of feel-good moments, because this movie is saturated with feel-good moments. And this really holds a special place in my heart. The script was definitely almost flawless, and that there was very little to complain about, and the story's flow definitely goes by in a nice, immaculate package. If I would have a legitimate beef, it would be that I have a funny feeling that I've done my homework, and I've checked that there's going to be, I think DreamWorks has negotiated to have 6 Kung Fu Panda installments in. I think that's overkill. And I think I would have a legitimate beef if a 4th one is going to be ensued, because now I'm starting to think that after a 3rd one, it's overkill. So please, DreamWorks, if you're thinking about a fourth installment, perish the thought. We're okay with 3. That's enough. Let's go home. Let's try to go for another animated stuff. Hey, you want to go for a spin-off of something? Let's do that instead. But not another fourth installment. You're getting a little bit too carried away if you do something like that. So under all the sugary sweetness, there were moments where the inner kid in me had a barrel of laughs, knowing all the pandas that were in the village. Besides the pandas, they're both funny and cute to look at. But it still deducts points for being unoriginal and a weak beginning. Yes, the pandas in this movie, they do pretty much a lot of the panda type stuff. They say that pandas often tend to roll around a lot. And that's true. This movie does have that. Okay, so they're not particularly eating high quality vegetation like most pandas do. And they're not really actually eating, and they're not actually living in Babu area type things, settlements. After all, hey, it's his animation, so, suspend your disbelief in any way, shape, or form. When it comes to animation, imagination bears no limits. So, if you find anything implausible, do us a favor, and let me ask you, what did you expect? It's animation. So granted, the animation is definitely the strongest quality about the film that makes it so extraordinary. And sure, we could see that this movie was just a generic, colorful template of vibrant colors and eye candy effects. This film definitely has animation that truly stands on its own merits. It's quite refreshing that at times it can showcase both styles of animation, and there's even some scenes where it was told in flashbacks and we are actually treated to some old school classic two-dimensional animation as it meets with the more modern 3D. In this day and age, I thought it was a relief that people and animators can still remember 2D format, and it was utilized to great effect, especially in the backdrops. The characters are well fleshed out, and the baby pandas, oh my god, they were just so adorable. You just wish you would just take one home and adopt it. Although, may I remind you, adult pandas can be quite dangerous. And I'm only just, like kidding, but it's just that when you see them on the screen, you just want to hug them and make sure Mama Panda does not take this personally, because that would not be a very pretty picture. When it comes to the voice acting, in the most part, it was definitely well executed. I would have to say Jack Black truly stands out as Poe, and he never loses his step or his enthusiasm in making the character his own. And I thought Jack Black really made the character. He is actually quite a tremendously great voice actor. And I think he and Poe, he was like really well casted from the beginning of the first 2 Kung Fu Panda movies. This one here, he's still just as awesome as always. I also I thought that Angelina Jolie, she didn't have much voiceover to do here. In the first half of the movie, her character was virtually quite non-existent. But there was another standout performance. I would have to say J.K. Simmons. He stood out as the evil Kai character, the demonic yak from the outer world, who decides to pay a visit and plot revenge. I thought he stood out as a true villain character. I think after his win in Whiplash, it'll be hard for him to break out of typecast, because I think J.K. Simmons could just play off a villain quite organically. There was a bit of a letdown in the voice acting, being that Rebel Wilson had a no-show for her character because the character she plays was customized for her to play the role. Nothing personal to Kate Hudson, but Wilson's replacement was just badly miscast. Like I said, the other standouts, Dustin Hoffman was quite good as the mentor to Poe, his trainer. Bryan Cranston, like I said, he did very, very well as the estranged father to Poe, them trying to put their differences aside. And I think that was played out to great effect. So, the voice acting was really, really well. Nothing really entirely special or elaborate, but I think it was very, very effective. In the end, we see a beautiful, crafted, animated sequel that was not necessarily needed, but an effective and warm story enough. It has been done better. It has been done for worse. So it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's not the best. I thought it was middle of the road to above average. It lived up to my satisfactory expectations, but I think it was not geared towards adults like me. It was definitely more geared towards the younger audience. And I think they truly had, I'm sure the kids who came to see this movie actually had a very, very fun time. And I think that's really what really matters most about this movie, Kung Fu Panda. Sure, it was made for milking in the money, but it could be still forgiven because it got better if you get past the murky opening scenes. The voice acting was superb, especially from Jack Black, but the absence of Rebel Wilson was still a bit of a downer. The kids and parents will truly have a ball, and when all is said and done, that's really where this film stands. It's a kids' film through and through, and as long as the kids are happy, I think we adults should be happy with them. So when all said and done, if I was to give this movie a scale out of 10, I would give Kung Fu Panda a 7.5. So I highly recommend it, even though it would be best if you would sit your kids down to see this movie. Being an adult alone, you probably won't enjoy it as much, but if you bring your kids to see this movie, I think they will be very, very pleased and very, very satisfied. I highly recommend this movie. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my YouTube channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead, but just remember the 3 simple rules. Be kind, be courteous, and please refrain from any rude comments, and I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Red Rider saying, keep watching those movies, and I will see you around. Goodbye.